It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and it's an opportunity to surely enrich me. So I'm really, really grateful to the organizers for thinking of me. Um, well, in response, Barbara, this this question and the little proposal is huge, and when I read it, I really didn't know where to start or what to think. It takes me 8 or 9 years to unfurl and unravel something inside me when I write a book, only to discover at the end that I still haven't answered any question. So to be able to do anything in such a short time with something which is so large, I'm a little on tenterhooks. But Nuruddin Farah, you spoke of the partition. You thought of, when you read Torn Apart, you thought of partition. Yes, indeed, the completely horrific thing, which is not over, which is still working itself out. Its political claim may be that the partition has been effected and it's complete, but no, it's not. Completely riven people and hearts and lives apart. That continues. What I thought when I heard you is how I read the proposal. What came somehow, what struck me was or rather, what I misread when I first picked up this piece. I read world as word, and I thought the word always torn apart. And I thought, yes, indeed, that's very profound. And, yeah, and the word is always torn apart. The word is always under threat. The word is always endangered, and perhaps very much more so today. And of course, we all, need to get together and think about um, the recuperating and revolutionary possibilities that the word has, and we have to bring that to the fore. And of course, forums like this are absolutely one of the best things that are happening in the world, which is torn apart by war, partitions of various other kinds, which do no good to humanity. And this at least is the place for putting together the word, respecting the word, and taking dialogue and debate forward, and hopefully humanity forward. But like I said, this whole proposal it had such a huge canvas. Now, made me so nervous that I went back and I read it again. And then I saw the word nihilism figured in a huge, huge way in that. And since I had already thought of the word nihilism in my head and heart, connected with the word. And I thought, terrible as it is, nihilism also has revolutionary potential, because it is a dismissing and disbelieving in the entire system, of the entire system. It is the way that the rich and the powerful have of modes of containment to keep the people in check, which the people in check reject by not believing in the system at all. It was always there, religion and whatever, social and political modes. Today, even more so, the market and the forces. And while it looks utterly terrible to see this nihilism around, while it sends us all into deep despair and pessimism, I think indeed the word and writers, they pick it up. They express that pessimism and that nihilism precisely to press upon everybody the urgency, but the need to disbelieve everything that's going on, to disbelieve in the worth of everything that's going on in order to look for another way. And what comes to me is in a rather haphazard fashion, so please don't start asking me to elaborate too much. I'd read Fathers and Sons by Tribune long ago, and then so it's supposed to be the book which ushered in the theory of Russian nihilism. And the son, who is nihilistic in that, is such a positive character in precisely setting in motion this questioning of everything that's established and accepted by the powers. Or think of Kafka, who had nothing to in his description of the society and the world he lived in, to say that anything there was worth believing in, but it was a pointer towards the important need to look for how to set things right. It was a pointer to the weak and the insecure, to, sorry, it's the Delhi pollution. I come from the, topmost polluted country in the world, really polluted city. Um, so that also had, I mean, even though it looked so despairing, it was, I think, it was all towards hope and another world, which was to be, which must be thought about. And finally, if I may, I thought I won't have anything to say, but I'm remembering one of the things. There's a great Hindi writer, which a lot of you might know, Premchand, who has a story called Kafan, the Shroud. And it is a story about two dropouts, two sort of absolute dregs of humanity, a father and a son, who there's nothing in that society, in that world for them to really, bring out anything good in them or sustain them. They have nothing. They have nothing by way of faith, by way of, any kind of belief system, by way of money, anything. And the one who looks after them is the daughter-in-law of the father, of the old man, and the wife of the son. And she dies. And when she dies, they don't have money even to get her shroud. But they know that the society is not the society around, especially of the rich and the, those who have everything, is not going to let a corpse just be there in their midst. So they are all going to put together some bit of coins and throw it at them, and they'll get a shroud. And indeed, the society gives them those coins. But instead of getting a shroud, they decide to get a whole meal for themselves. So while they're just lying there dead, they have got some food for themselves. They'd rather party on. And I mean, it's a very bleak and a very, very black story. And father and son are not able to leave alone for a moment. They will miss out on the party. So it's a completely terrible, terrible story. But I think, ironically, it's actually a story about hope. And it's a story about insisting that we look and that we make them look and we try and set things right. So I think we are living in terrible, terrible times which are begging for way, and I think we are surely getting together, and at least I know that a lot of us are working precisely for that.
I want to eventually work our way around to hope, but I wanted to say, you wanted us to talk about social media. I know it's on our program when we get there. But the thing I'd like to say, you mentioned Kafka, and one of my favorite of all parables is the one about, there's this monk running, and he's really just out in the open, and then he finds a wall, no relief. He runs along the wall, at least there's some, and then another wall, and he's running along, slowly getting funneled, at least there's a wall, and then there's a cat, and he goes, oh, the mouse, I had no choice, I could have turned around and then he eats the mouse. And I think there's still a huge amount to say about the inequality, another thing that was touched on in our crazy of what we were supposed to talk about. And you've both mentioned the partition, Ranka, and how much of this is about colonialism, or the Europeans, or the Americans, in Indonesia, or all over the place, stealing things that aren't theirs and ruining the lives of people because of greed and because they can get away with it. And the very people who own social media are billionaires, mostly in America, who do not pay taxes. And it's the same right wing that has underfunded our public education so that people don't even have the initiative to read newspapers. Public education in America used to be pretty good, and it's just become more and more sad. Only the well-to-do and the upper class really get educated unless they have incredible resources. Inner resources. They're born poor, it's extremely difficult to get anywhere. And so I think a lot of it's about greed, a lot of it is about inequity. And the two things, social media and inequity, live together. And in our anarchy, in our country, it's almost a civil war. I mean, the right wing is crazy about guns, they're well armed. There's more than a gun and a half for every human being in the United States. People are ready to take to arms. They almost did with Trump. We had a revolution, I mean, it got squashed, but it's ongoing. And so hopefully he's gone. I mean, one hopes, but one never knows. I'm not sure. But I think that one of the things that I think you have to we should all look at in order to change it is to actually come together to force change, to force the rich to pay taxes, to force corporations to pay taxes. And ExxonMobil gets it. And we don't have the political will really to change it, but I don't think that's impossible. And I think that one of the things that could change it, like with the people, and really that we have giving them more, and that the movement forward has to come from all generations, starting with writers. I've got to do a lot of work. Yeah. So that's still small. But
talk about the cat and the mouse, in the sense that when you have one single cat is capable of terrorizing 100 mice. And the world works exactly in that same fashion. One person, head of government, or head of a company, head of something, is able to reign over a large territory, which indicates there is no fairness in the life. Now, you talked, talked about social media. Now, as far as I am concerned, I have never had Twitter. I do not know how it works. I do not receive messages. I do not send messages. I live in a world that's isolated from the so-called social media. It doesn't rule my life, social media. And yet there are millions and millions of people in different parts of the world who are ruled, their minds are set to respond to social media. Is social media social? I doubt it. The world has become so large, it's unruly. And the question I continually ask myself, and I was asking myself as I sat there previously, with so many photographers who were taking pictures, but they weren't taking pictures once or twice, they were taking pictures 200 times. And I kept saying to myself, what's the point of taking 200? And I thought of, the belief in certain societies. And I come from Somalia, where we believe that every time somebody takes a picture, they're taking a bit of your soul. So we are now today, almost all of us are soulless because the photographs have taken away our soul. So how do we renegotiate so that we regain our soul? It is part of this unrulable. The partition, however, I once taught a course on the Indian partition, also literature, the Indian partition. And it was so fascinating that I actually came to the conclusion that every person whose family belongs to the Indian subcontinent, there is something lacking, something that's integral, that's missing. In the same way as in the continent of Africa, because of what the colonials have done to us, partitioning, doing all kinds of terrible things, feeding us the information that we are inferior, because certain races are superior, others are inferior. We have so many social to cope. But because, you have to earn your salary, that will after children and use ourselves. We haven't had the time to deal with Christ. The difficulties that Americans is obviously very different from the ones that we have, people in the continent of Africa. So we struggle, but we have no power to change anything. And social media is anti.
I agree. And just to say, the First Nation in America are the similar boat.
Yes, I agree with you.
So,
Yeah, that's a lot. Where do I start? The cat and the mouse. Yeah, so I don't know if, and I really envy you, Nuruddin, that you are away from social media. I mean, I don't tweet. I tweet once a year, but I can't look away. I can't look away from, and yeah, I'm not on TikTok yet, but I'm sure I will be someday. And I don't know if we have the luxury of turning back. If this mouse metaphor, I think you got to pick which cat's mouth you jump into. That's really it. Is it the TikTok cat or the Twitter cat? But I think, okay, if I'm sum these things up, I suppose it's the difference. It's democracy versus anarchy, and democracy of information was what we were promised. And this is not just politics. I mean, we have every event, like I touched on a few in Sri Lankan's history, where multiple narratives which are vying for supremacy, and now that you have these platforms, anyone can construct a narrative, anyone can, and we live in this this alternative facts, post-truth world. These are all terms coming out of America, and this is true that there is no truth, there is no authority, and this becomes, it's okay when you're talking about political debate or evaluating a TikTok dance, it's fine, but when you're talking about, like COVID, for instance, there was a lot of misinformation being spread at that point, and a lot of us would claim to be for free speech. I mean, there's this term free speech, absolutist free speech at all costs. This is, for someone in South Asia, this is not something we take for granted, because I've grown up knowing that you could write the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, and you could land yourself in some great trouble. And so we don't take this for granted. But the idea that anyone can say anything and that these platforms don't have, especially when people have huge followers, and you can spread misinformation that, for example, undermines the vaccine effort. And then does the state intervene and regulate these things? You can't trust the algorithms or the people making them, because that's maximized for engagement and so on. So the more time, and it's got me as well, I'm spending inordinate time watching what people are saying and arguing about. And so it has descended into anarchy. I mean, crypto is another example. We have this idea of decentralization versus, do we trust these banks that have been ripping us off and collapsing, or do we have this decentralized system which no one's in charge? And again, you have evangelists on both sides, and we don't know what to think. Should I be putting my money in the bank? Should I be investing it here? Or put it under your mattress. Invest in gold and gold and gems. You got evangelists for that as well on YouTube talking about don't trust either of these. So I think we are in we can't put the genie back in the bottle. This is where it is, and we need to find that way where this abundance of information leads to consent or leads to some sort of agreement. But you brought up the gun debate. It just seems, it's bizarre for us in other parts of the world. I mean, and I often thought, I solved the gun problem over a drink a few years ago. I was like, I've solved it. Referendum. Let's do that. Let's just put it to a vote. All the popular, and surely Americans will vote for no guns. And then people said, that's civil war. You've got one side heavily armed to the teeth, the other side a pacifist. That's not going to end well. And apparently you can't do it. But each state has to vote. So anyway, that idea is there for. But referendums. Brexit has told us that they don't usually turn out how you want them to. But so I think it's, and I don't think anyone has the solutions here, because now these elections that are coming up, I would like to see some middle ground ideas. But I know that what's going to be peddled, it's going to be. This is a Sinhalese Buddhist nation, and there are all these minorities trying to destroy us. Speak with that, it's going to create us, and then it just seems that's the way that all elections are run, where you have these two camps, and then you're picking between the lesser of the two evils. So I don't. Is there a situation where we do have this public square which is regulated, but then who regulates? Who decides who is allowed to speak, who is deplatformed, and so on? So, and I've no doubt these things will be resolved. But it's not going to happen. Maybe it'll take 10 years. This is new technology, and we're not quite sure how to wield it and what to do with it. So interesting times ahead. So.
When I was young, I read in a book that there's this Chinese curse. Why would that be? This Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Yes.
I'm very much out of my depth when the term social is used. And I'm very proud that I'm like you. I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on anything. But I think for all that, we are not able to get the isolation we might like. I think the social media finds us. Today's world has a way with information and social media and rumors and a lot of the negative fallout of that, but perhaps also some positive fallout. All of it has a way of kind of pulling out the mouse. So we're not free of it, we live with it. But at least it's not in my world of dream and desire to be in there, and I've never felt that I've missed anything by not being in it. Um, no, I'm just sort of very scattered on everything that's been going on. But Shihan mentioned, the subcontinent and us being so much more conscious of what what my land is into. I think about that, and now that by some fortuitous combination of factors, I'm in the limelight. I think about it a fraction more. But what I always feel is that just as no, I don't know how to put that, but there are censors and there are those who want to put you in your place and dictate terms. And possibly there are censors and some kind of a, within quotes, dictator inside one as well. But I think there are two wonderful beasts, untamed, creativity and imagination. Who won't listen to them and who won't listen to me? So I feel there'll always be this tussle, and we'll keep negotiating, navigating, and finding ways of saying some of the things we want to. And finally, I just remember what the great writer from the subcontinent, Intizar, said. Belonged to a small place in India, what remained is India, went away to Pakistan, could only return to India in his, when he was at least in his 70s, if not 80s. So he used to say, whatever the circumstances, conducive or not, what can a writer do except write? And the writer will write. So for me, again, I like to feel we'll find ways of keeping the voice alive, keeping, waiting, biding our time, waiting for our moment. We'll find. I'd like to.
I think we're out of time, and I just want to say, I feel very honored to be with masters of creativity and imagination. They're beautiful books. So thank you. Am I supposed to take a question and answer? Where are my binders? I'm sorry. Okay, may I have any questions? I know. Any brave starter? In that case, thank you all.
Thank you all for attending the session. Our next session on the stage will be at 1:30. We will be back shortly. Thank you.